Undertale is a game I associate heavily with amazing story, characters, and good times all around. And it holds a special place in my heart because of that. And I've chosen to avoid most Undertale horror media as a whole, because it's either just using Undertale as a shell to tell some run-of-the-mill horror story, or to tell a story that I'll say is more or less impossible to understand or follow. It's not necessarily a bad thing, don't get me wrong, but I say all of this because I hold today's video topic in rather high regard. Today's video topic is Unaltered User, an ARG series I was made aware of by a channel member, and since they're one of my first, I thought I should make a video on it. I'm also still hard at work on a fairly large video project covering Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion in its entirety. So what better way to continue regularly uploading than to make a video on a small yet amazing project. Oh yeah, this is also not going to be a small video. I couldn't have chosen a better time to cover this series because just a little while ago, at the time of writing this, another installment of the series just came out. But before we get into the meat of today's video, on to my intro. Hello everybody, it's me, Dregobob, and welcome to yet another video on the channel. Today's video topic should go without saying since I just gave you a little bit of an explanation on it. Very recently, I released a video covering one project called MSU, and that got huge views, but most importantly, massive amounts of subscribers and new members on my Discord server. Right now, I'm aiming for 15k subs before my birthday this March, and after the 1.5k sub boost we received in this newest video, we only have 2.5k to go. So let's keep this train going and growing. As for my Discord server, I tout it as a place for the creative and really anyone who needs a community. At the time of posting this video, we'll have a brand new art contest running, the prize of a special role, induction into the Hall of Fame, and a post on my YouTube channel dedicated to your art. Not only that, but we also have our creator program, where for those of you with analog horror, digital horror series, ARGs, animated series, games, and more, you can apply and receive your own special channel dedicated to your studio or series, but only if you have content on already. Competition's pretty steep, and I also don't want to make my server too, cluttered. So I might make another server in the future for that kind of thing too. On screen now, there is also art from people on my Discord server. Hi if you're watching this artists in question. Now, with all of that in mind, if you enjoy this video, like, comment, and subscribe. And with that out of the way, let's move on to the channel where we'll be spending most of our time today. The channel itself is quite bare bones. Its icon is a sort of render of the soul from Undertale. Its banner is all black, and there's no description to be found. Currently in the series, there's 11 uploads. However, a glance at the playlist page reveals a myriad of non-canon material we won't be looking at today. Or probably ever. I'm evil like that. The videos in question are rather innocuous, all save for a few strangely named videos and some unnamed tracks and oddities. Those being 8.5, 12.16, and Locked In. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. The best place to begin is with the eldest upload in the series, simply titled Call. And sitting at 58 seconds, it's the all-around shortest in the series. In the description for the video, we also get a cipher, but not just any cipher, a Vignere cipher. Visionaire? Visionaire. I'm not sure what it's called, but what makes these ciphers so special is that you need a key to crack them, and we currently don't possess any keywords with which to crack it. And the only place I can even think to find it is within this video. This video's incredibly short runtime somehow manages to cram in quite a lot of interesting material. The titular call is short and bizarre. The person or thing on the other end calling to simply say redacted before hanging up. Notably, as we pass into the next area, we see a monochromatic version of the player character's sprite appear for just a second before going off screen. Also notable is the fact Doggo, a character that you would encounter at this stand, is gone. And after witnessing this human, the audio gets all wonky for a moment. The empty stand, however, can mean a few things. Either the player is backtracking during the genocide route, or whatever that human was dealt with them before we ever passed by. Regardless, the next room reveals an all-black sign. Interacting with it reveals more text that likely needs a cipher to be understood. Later, in an area that's supposed to contain that one snowman you can take a piece of, there's now a long path surrounded by trees. The player walks until they are ultimately attacked from behind by this other human, causing the audio to glitch and the video to abruptly end. We have next to no information on what this other human is, but its colors remind me of a certain man who speaks in hands. But that's about where the similarities end, I'd say. Turning our attention back to these two sets of ciphered text, there's really only one word we can use as a key, and that's redacted. Doing so reveals a message reading, "I need another." Another what? That another, this whoever needs, is a total mystery. The other set of text, however, is a different cipher altogether. It being a shrimple little Caesar cipher that when translated reads, "This is not the one." The only other valuable piece of information we have here is the date in the description, 10/9/15. October 9th, 2015, just a month after Undertale's initial release. Besides this, we don't know what is going on other than this player being haunted by some kind of anomaly within his copy of Undertale, one seeking something. It's not clear if the sign is referencing the player, but apparently there's something it doesn't want, or at least is not what it's searching for. Perhaps the video, Empty Town, can help us. The description of this video reveals more ciphered text and a date revealing this recording takes place just 2 days after the previous. In this video, we follow our protagonist as he finally makes his way to Snowdon. The audio in this video is exceptionally messed up, the pitch of the track changing all too frequently while there is something off with the town. It's almost empty, save for a green or blue demon, when typically the one we encounter in town is red. We also learn the player's name, Papyrus, or Papyru. In Undertale, there's a series of Easter eggs where if you select a character's name to use as your own, they'll shoot you down. Papyru, however, is one you can select, as Papyrus will gleefully say, "I'll allow it!" Oh, that's an awful Papyrus voice. I don't deserve to be an Undertale fan. This will be important later, but the main character is aware of Papyrus. Enough so that they named their character after them, likely meaning they do quite like the skeletal goober. And they've gotta be one of my favorites too. After exiting this menu, Paps interacts with this green demon, and they state cryptically, "How many will it take?" After this, they leave, moving to try and browse the rabbit shopkeep's wares. We're also shown a black screen and a message that simply reads, "Grievous error," which is actually an error code that can appear in Undertale, meaning, who would have guessed, something in the game isn't functioning as it should. And no, I won't take note of how grievous is spelt wrong. Upon leaving the shop, the town is bathed in that same snowy haze we would see just as we're about to fight Papyrus. Not only this, but the music is even more corrupt, and the green demon is gone. Along with everyone else in town, in fact. As we walk, we even see a black figure appear for a split second near the shed at Sans and Papyrus's house. Pappy even takes note of this as they linger just a little where Papyrus would normally appear, almost as if they're disappointed. But this isn't all. As moving forwards into Waterfall, we see some specks of something broken on the ground. It almost reminds me of those memory flowers, but our attention is quickly torn away by another monochrome character. This time it's Sans with a shattered face. The game glitches out again, and various text appears, hinting that the game itself is being deleted or manipulated. But we also get two more things. The name of this computer's user, that being Michael, and yet another cipher to solve. But not before the annoying dog makes a surprise appearance, which is, yet again, something that can happen in the game when an error occurs. I really love this ARG's attention to detail so far. It's great. Looking back to these ciphers, and beginning with the one we find in the description, I banged my head on the wall for quite a while with this one. But thanks to the amazing folks in the comments, we can find it reads, "So many masks, yet none of them seem to fit." The only other cipher is kinda easy, as putting the one we see at the end of the video in with the key, Snowden, reveals it reads, "Not perfect." So far, we have the theme of searching for something, or someone specific. There was the first video with its talk of an it needing another, and something not being the one. Then in this video, there's a green demon that questions how many more will it take, being almost frustrated sounding with all of these ill-fitting masks, along with the final line of not perfect. Judging by what we're seeing, it's likely there's something or someone within the game searching for what seems to be a proper body, a vessel. Perhaps it's a matter of this game, Undertale, not being able to support whatever it is, like a hermit crab shell being too small for its ever-growing body. Maybe this broken up Sans we see and that human are one of the forms it's taken on. Undertale itself is only 155 megabytes large today, and whatever this thing is, it's intelligent, though it might not even be looking for a proper body to have in the game itself. It could be scouting for a real person, a real body for it to somehow take. But for some reason, the people that came before, if there were any, weren't suitable. That's one issue we have right now. So we have zero clue how long this entity has been around, and to put it bluntly, we don't know what its nature is. Is it stalking Michael? Is it something that came to be trapped in Undertale? Is it new, or has it been around for ages? What's safe to assume is Undertale isn't suiting it. This body isn't suiting it, and these corrupted appearances they take on may be telling of the fact it can't comfortably live within this game, hence its search for a proper vessel. If that's even what is happening. We still have another 9 videos to look at, so for all we know, this could turn out to be something completely different. So let's move on to the next video. Dissonance. Unlike the others, this one's description contains regular text. Text from Michael, no doubt. An incomplete link, and a date revealing this occurred just 4 days after the previous video. I've been having weird dreams lately. A lot of them have involved flowers. Weird. The contents of this video itself are also quite interesting. Weirdly, we follow Michael as his journey begins, meaning we may be watching these videos out of order, though I kinda doubt it. Here, we see another one of those monochromatic sprites, this one being Flowey, who bizarrely melts into a puddle before it or we can do anything. Notably, it also lacks a face like that Sans and human we saw previously. Another failed vessel, perhaps? Nonetheless, Toriel soon appears, spouting her usual talk to the player, before abruptly disappearing via a glitch. The glitch we see here also looks exactly like what we saw in the previous 2 videos. We already know it to delete things, and in the last video, it deleted the entire save file. So it makes sense that we're back in the beginning of the game, now that I really think about it. Up here in that first room, it's confirmed we're watching from Mike's perspective in the save screen. As we follow him room by room, things grow darker yet darker, until they reach the room with the usually spike-filled floor that Toriel would lead us through. The darkness of the world paired with the human's brightness reminds me of how the screen usually is during a monster encounter. And as we cross into the next room, everything fades away. Off topic, but that remix was awesome. I could listen to that for hours. But what's most important here is we watch as the player is pursued through this long, dark corridor by a massive static with some kind of face or being inside of it. Notably, on either side as he runs, there are more of these flowy vessels that melt as the massive static begins to catch up. Though before that can happen, Michael reaches a wall of static that causes the game to crash and a series of symbols to appear on the screen, before the video abruptly ends. It's also worth noting that earlier in this video, much like the previous, we see a shadowy figure, though this one closely resembles our beloved Papyrus instead. Looking back to the description, that unfinished link we saw is no doubt a pastebin link. Using it, we go to a post containing a mess of symbols. Symbols that correlate to the ones we saw at the end of this one. Now, I'm going to be completely transparent. I would not have been able to figure out what these symbols meant if not for the help of one at Waylu5336. So, if you're watching, thank you for the inadvertent help. When translated, using an @bash cipher, we find the text reads, "This is just a bad dream, and you're never waking up from it." Very ominous. We know Michael is having bad dreams relating to flowers. Perhaps this is an in-game representation of those weird dreams he's been having? But why are we seeing apparitions of Papyrus? All of the questions are only really getting layered on, but I have a feeling the idea I had prior may not be so far off. The next video in the series is titled Undertale, 2015-10-25, setting it sometime after the previous upload. Unlike the others, there's no cryptic links, text, or even a sort of log from Michael here. Just empty space, an empty description. In the video itself, we're back at Waterfall, likely after Michael made his way there through normal enough gameplay. Making his way forwards, he approaches a wall and opens a door. But if we look behind him, before we cut to the next area, someone or something is there, watching him. But it's one thing after another here, as we're suddenly brought into a battle with a corrupt frogget. I can't describe its appearance, though it does remind me of this one bizarre image of what looks like a corrupt frogget face that was found in, I believe, Deltarune? It'll be on screen if I can find it. If not, well, whatevs. But in this battle, Michael can't do much of anything to the frogget. Attacking is pointless, items do nothing, and slugging nothing in the empty act menu causes frogget to spit out a myriad of different bits of text. Q dozens of times, text from different characters, flavor text, and more. But the most notable thing we see is the tail end of a video link. But we'll save that and the other text for what's after this segment. Here we meet the ARG's antagonist. Just as I suspected, they aim to create a body, one that will allow them to come into the real world by the sounds of what it said. In this monologue, it speaks and threatens Michael with his full name and online handle. It relishes killing, and yet the fictional characters in this fictional world do nothing for them. What all seemingly makes it worth it is tormenting Michael. He hints at knowing where Michael is in the real world, but right now, they seemingly can't get there, and unlike so many other horror antagonists, Michael makes a smart move and suddenly shuts down his PC before this being can monologue any further and grow any further. So major points to Michael for actually having a brain. Now, before we go on to that YouTube link we got there, there's one more thing to look at. Michael's YouTube channel. MH Plays 1996. One video is simply a long play of a Super Mario Bros. Game on the NES variety with some really crappy audio. Interestingly, Undertale, unlike everything else on his desktop, is set as far away from the other files and apps as much as it can possibly be. If there's anything else there, tell me. I don't really have the time or patience to comb through 2 hours of Super Mario gameplay. Though the only other video on this channel is an update video, set just a couple of days after the previous. In it, he talks about the experience we witnessed firsthand in the previous video. The video we learned of this channel in was one he never posted himself, due to being so uncomfortable with what he saw. So that begs the question, who is this that's posting all of these videos on the unaltered user account? Moving on, there's also that video link we got, and its contents, they also relate to the two videos we just saw. In it, we see a really crunchy conversation between Papyrus and Flowey? That can't be right. And it's not, because if you recall, Michael's name in Undertale was Papyru, or Papyrus. And I also don't recall Flowey being named Dean either. It's likely this is a phone call between Michael and this Dean, recorded by this digital entity that's likely stalking him in his own home through his devices. That would also help to explain why the audio in Super Mario was so screwed up, but then again, I could be wrong. For those of you paying attention! On screen in this video, more symbols fade in, similar to the ones we saw in Dissonance. And sure enough, in the description for this video, we get what looks to be another cipher. But in reality, it's a link to another pastebin page from a guest user called Sleep, 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 etc. Taking this new mess of text we find inside, along with the symbols in the video, we get two phrases. He didn't return. I had to make him. And sweet dreams. There's a notable blank spot in the first phrase. It could be saying Michael didn't return, or he didn't return sweet dreams. But this is equally as cryptic as all of the previous media we've seen. Now, at the very least, we have an explanation as to what this being's goal is within the series. It wants a body. More realistically, a real body. A physical body. Whatever this entity is, it's malicious. It takes pleasure in killing, takes pleasure in tormenting Michael, and it's likely done something to force him to return to the game, such as invading his dreams. We do hear him talk about strange dreams he's begun having involving flowers, and in the video on MH Plays, we do hear about headaches he's also been having too. So I do wonder what they could possibly be, or represent. Perhaps failed vessels? The destroyed forms of NPCs within the game? It'll likely be confirmed later, so let's continue on. The next video in the series is called // and, or when translated using the @bash cipher we've discovered, it reads as hello. We don't have a current date in the video, but already there's a couple of important things on screen. A Word file called Major Moment That Changed My Life essay thing, and the fact it appears as if Michael fell asleep while writing this. Fortunately for him, he's given a kind wake-up call from the entity from the previous video, now taking on the appearance of the human from the first. And it seems they have something to say to Michael. We follow the entity in this form as he makes his way through the city we see near the end of Undertale. The audio is eerie, sounding like a corrupt version of some other track from the game. And as he moves, he allows monster encounters with various corrupted monsters do the talking. And it's from this we learn they are not happy. Not in the slightest with how Michael has been trying to dodge him. But we also learn that Michael is not the first victim of this entity. This entity, whatever it is, has been attacking and putting other people through what it's putting Michael through now. And he finds it laughable that Michael thinks he's trapped. That he has any semblance of control here, because he doesn't. They will both see this through to Michael's end, and with no way to shut down his computer, the entity is now here to stay. Or he can close the game from the task manager. Yet another incredibly clever move on his part, actually. We also get a date here at the end, 11/1/2015, just a couple of days after the last installment. However, it wasn't ever going to be that easy, as Undertale forces itself back open, revealing the entity from before and more ciphered text, reading when transferred, "You're an idiot for attempting that," before the video finally ends. Here we get a closer look at its almost completed form. It reminds me almost of Gaster in the face, though most of it looks as if it's dressed in business attire. Nonetheless, this leaves Michael no better than when he started. The entity is here to stay, it seems, and it won't take very kindly to Michael's attempts at stopping it. I'd imagine even if he unplugged the PC, it would attack him in his dreams too. Knowing this thing, it's likely what's been causing those dreams he's been having. Looking back to the description, there's a final cipher. When translated, it reads, "My game will keep going." And that it will, as there's still 6 videos left, though these next 2 are quite different as they feature unused or cut music from Undertale. The description sets the video just a day before the one we just watched, and the description reads as such. "Michael here. This song plays in the flower field you can find in the ruins. I couldn't find any uploads of the song, so I just decided to do it myself." While this video features a neat little soundtrack, the most interesting and really only important thing is a hidden message and a strange bit of audio that plays at the beginning. I almost immediately recognized this as a spectrogram thingy, and sure enough, opening it in one presents this message. "Field of flowers, and whenever I get close to them, they begin to melt. There's a figure watching me in the distance. It doesn't do anything but move away when I try to get close to it. Every time I wake up, I have a worse headache. It's been worse since I quit that game." This message confirmed that these strange flowers are the exact same ones we see surrounding or near the entity. But we also hear about a figure that wants to avoid Michael when he's in the field. But every time he has this dream, he finds himself waking up with ever-worsening headaches. Perhaps this explains why Michael was asleep at his computer at 1:43 in the morning while writing an essay on some important moment that changed his life. The second video of this kind doesn't contain any music, as according to the title, it's a set of unused ambience simply called Muse_F ambience. In the spectrogram, it shows nothing of note, but here on YouTube, it displays text. What seems like another call between Michael and Dean. But before we get into that, the description sets it 8 days after that night where he was awoken by the entity. And the message from Michael is more or less innocuous, simply stating that this track was unused, but he's not sure. On to the video. Going off of the audio of the speaking sounds, this is a call from Michael to Dean, not the other way around like I first thought. However, Dean is distant. He's avoiding Michael, making excuses constantly as to why he can't hang out, but something is obviously wrong with Dean. As partway through this call, he goes completely silent. Michael asking Dean if he's just going to remain silent as such until plainly answering, yes. And if the character's speaking audio represents their actual words, then something awful happened to Dean. There's no reason he would scream like that, unless he's also been dealing with a certain digital entity. And if Michael isn't special, and if he isn't the first nor the last, who's to say it can't be in two places at once? Even dozens. Maybe even hundreds. We don't know what happened to Dean, or what the full extent of this entity's power is, but the next video might shed some light on it, as it's simply titled, Friends. And with no description, we can dive right in. This bizarre video sets Michael back in Undertale. Notably, the track Flower Field we just heard is playing, and sure enough, we're in a room with a flower. Flowey. No matter what Michael does, he can't progress past this room. At least, not until he deals with Flowey. Forced into encounter, we watch as Flowey is killed over and over and over again until, finally, he's gone completely. Passing into the next room, everything's a little grayer, a bit more dead. And another cipher appears. When translated, it reads, "Poor little flower, how frail, how broken." But upon passing into the next room, Flowey returns, now bearing the same broken look every other flower we've seen has. However, this isn't the end. The very next video in the series is a direct continuation of Friend. This video is titled 8-5-12-16. Knowing this series, this is a cipher, but we'll save that for later. The description reveals that this video actually takes place 6 days before the upload of that unused ambience. But with what we'll come to see, this is very strange. Before we go into the video itself, let's see what Michael has to say in the description.
I felt really sick for the past week. That sound made it unbearable. I feel nauseous. For some reason I couldn't move. I was frozen still.
It seems that things are only growing worse for Michael since he resisted the entity. But what sound could he be referring to? It's likely that this video holds the answer. In it, we see a battle between Michael and one of those flowers we've been seeing constantly. But something is interesting about this flower. Its name is D. And when Michael attacks, it does exactly 8-5-12-1-6 damage. And in an almost broken voice, it cries out,
Michael!
Each of these letters correlate to a letter in the alphabet. Using an A1Z26 decoder, it reads out simply as
Help.
If it hasn't been painfully clear, this thing, this flower, it's Dean, trapped inside of the game, taking on the form of one of those flowers we've been seeing constantly. I say this because of the name. Dean? It might as well be the same exact thing. And the two characters that represent Dean and Michael in the series. Chief among them, the extra crunchy phone call we get from that hidden link, where Michael is of course represented by Papyrus, his in-game human's namesake, while Dean is represented by Flowey, the character we watch get slaughtered over and over again in the last video, before putting up a weak fight here in the end, only for their own friend to unknowingly end them, as they tried and failed to plead, all of it ending with a roaring cry before they fade away. This fact, however, is even more strange when we think back to the other phone call we saw in the subtitles of this unused ambience. If it takes place over 6 days after this recording, then who was Michael talking to on the other line? Was it Dean? Shell-shocked after being forced into the game by the entity who's been also tormenting them? Or was it the entity itself? I subscribe to the former because from what we know of the entity, it's cocky. It likes to brag and talk, to torment. I'm sure it would have relished the chance to attack Michael using his own friend's voice. But then what are the mechanics of this mind transference into the game? Is it something it can just do? Well, probably not, because it would have likely already done it to Michael. Unless it's been doing it to both of them. Recall the end of the video where Michael wanders through a field of flowers. Just like he said he did in that spectrogram, perhaps these dreams are Michael's consciousness being dragged into the game world itself. That sound he heard is also more than likely that digital screaming that came from the entity itself, or even Dean's cries of pain as he unknowingly forced him through his own awful nightmare, courtesy of this entity. If that's the case, then that would mean Dean, Michael, and anyone who's come into contact with this thing is no safer in the real world than they are playing its game. The biggest remaining question now is how exactly it will end. But I also still wonder, what are these flowers? And is Dean dead? Or alive? Maybe the last 2 videos will shed some light on it. The second to last video in the series is simply titled 4. Using that same A1Z26 decoder, we get the letter D, and the dating sets it as the oldest video in the series, 10/5/15, back in October. But what we see here is something strange. The area this takes place in is the room just before the player's confrontation with Asgore. After Sans disappears, the player is told to come back by none other than the entity in its human form, before being berated and told to go to sleep. Then finally, an image of the flower we saw Michael fight in the previous episode appears on screen, accompanied by what sounds like digital screaming and text stating plainly, "Good night." One small detail is, the screaming begins when the mouse stops moving. What we see here can only be confirmed by the next and final video in the series so far, called Locked In. There is no description in this video, but in it, we watch as Papyrus walks through a lone path surrounded on either side by static. The name of this game is an Undertale, but instead, Grave. Soon on either side of him, the various forms the entity has taken on appear, watching on as Papyrus trudges along. What we see here is Michael's end, his mind transference, and I'm afraid what we saw in the previous video was Dean's. This is all but confirmed twice in both the battle screens, as the letter in place of both of the characters' names is the first digit of both Michael and Dean's name. Both of them are lost to the entity. But that begs the question of who Michael has been speaking to all this time. The dream idea I had previously wasn't correct, but if their minds are truly being pulled into this game by the entity, is what's left the entity itself? The question of what happens to the person's body after this seeming transference is still a total mystery. Besides this idea we have of the thing left behind being the entity. But then why not talk down to Michael? Be cruel to them with the knowledge and fact it hijacked his body. Well, maybe it's because it isn't even their mind that's being taken, but instead their eternal soul. Of course, I could always be completely wrong, as future installments could outright disprove this idea I had. But at the end of this video, we get one more thing. This bizarre image. One that's just a bit too dark to really see. After a bit of editing, we're left with this. This looks like the entity we've been seeing throughout the series, only now it's bigger, more detailed, and it's taking up the entire screen. We have no solid evidence, but this could very well be a glimpse at the entity's true form. Its completed form. The thing it's been striving to complete through the run of this series. The only places we've seen it is inside of the game, and it being larger like this could mean it's somehow managed to break free. But until it's outright confirmed, we've been left at a cliffhanger. I originally planned to refer to the archived material to get some kind of idea, but with them being marked as non-canon, I really couldn't see myself taking from it to try and get any ideas. So as I said, this is the end of the line. It's not often I find myself laughing, being surprised, and genuinely intrigued with something I cover. But somehow, each twist and turn, despite the pain in the arse ciphers that were also around every twist and turn, I truly like this ARG. Michael outright shutting the entity down, not once but twice to its chagrin, had me cackling like an idiot, because it was just so off the wall. You never see anyone or anything interrupting a villain or monster in the middle of its monologue, so it was a breath of fresh air. I also do like being challenged when researching things, so despite having to use the comments for help once or twice because my brain was running off of black tea and 5 hours of sleep, I still had a lot of fun with this one. I'd also like to thank the thumbnail artist of today's video too, at Unclium. I covered their Smiling Forever series a while back and had an amazing time with that too. So please, go and give them some love. They really deserve it. Oh, and if you didn't see it, it's because I'm using YouTube's wonderful A/B testing feature. May the best thumbnail and title win. Tell me in the comments if you see them all. With that, I need to get back to work on my Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion video so I can finally get rid of the 150 gigabytes worth of footage I have of it on my PC. Also, you should also be seeing some art on screen right now, plus the server's creator of the day. If you want to join in, there are links to all of my socials in the description below. I'm Dregobob, hoping you're having a wonderful day or night wherever you are. Bye-bye. Dude, I would so fist fight that guy. I could totally win.